Move on to the consent calendar. I have a request to remove number 10. We have Mr. Mike Short that would like to speak on number 10. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items prior to the time that council votes on the motion, unless members of the city council, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. So we have number 10 removed. Would anyone of the public like to speak from any other item on the consent calendar? Come on up, sir. Would you like that polled or speak on it? You just want to speak on it, correct? Okay, come on up. We have 3 people that would like to speak on number 9. I'm sorry, 4 people.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I am Larry Mertz. I live in North Yuba City, been a city resident for 45 years. I do not like the way that the proposition was written by Darren Gale. It does not discriminate between California citizens and non-citizens. California is trying desperately to count non-residents and non-citizens for purposes of gerrymandering the state even farther than it is. As it is in Northern California, we have 21 counties north of the Sacramento River, and we have only 5 elected representatives in the state legislature. And this will just make it worse. We need to discriminate between citizens and non-citizens on the census count. That's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, sir. Is Larry Verga still here? There he is.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. My name is Larry Verga, and I'm a resident of Sutter County in the sphere of influence. And I'm here to recommend that you do not approve the resolution of the 2020 Census Committee for the state of California. And my reasons are, and starting from the top and working down, is that, as you know, the Census Bureau had announced that they want to put the citizenship question on the census questionnaire, and the Democratic Party opposed that. And it's resulted in a lawsuit that went clear to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's accepted it. And sometime between now and April of 2020, they will make a decision on whether the census question is there or not. But the real concern is that in California, and the committee that you want to approve their resolution is basically a Democrat appointed committee appointed by Governor Jerry Brown. And California is, in fact, a Democrat-controlled state. As a result of the motor voter law and also the ballot harvesting that took place, we ended up with the legislature this year, because of the last election, of 60 out of 80 seats in the state assembly are Democrat. And 29 of the 40 seats in the Senate are Democrat. And all of the constitutional officers in the state of California are Democrat. And I'm just contending that because of the allocation of seats in Congress as a result of this census, that the impact should be at the hands of the U.S. citizens, not foreign citizens and illegal aliens. And I'm recommending that because of that, and similar to Mr. Mertz's concern, that you not approve the resolution as written. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to Carla Verga, followed by Terry Thompson.
My name is Carla Verga, 430 South George Washington Boulevard. I'm in the county, but I'm in the sphere of influence, and I strongly stand on opposition of this resolution. The good thing about having you vote on it, though, would be to get your votes on record. This issue is going to go before the United States Supreme Court. They've already agreed to hear it, and it should go next week. And I'm a naturalized American citizen. We became citizens so we could vote. That's not the case anymore. You've got non-citizens voting. And you're benefiting people that come to our country illegally. They get counted in the census. They get the apportionment of the congressmen, the federal and state funding. And then the citizens are left out to dry. It's like Sutter County with our 60,000 people or whatever we are now. We're vastly outnumbered by the number of illegals in LA County they have more votes with the illegals, more representation in our councils, in our state legislature, and in Congress than we do. And that just isn't right. So I strongly oppose this measure, and we need to stand that citizens are counted in the census. We can also have everybody counted, but make sure that the apportionment for legislators and Congress members are only based on the number of citizens, not non-citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're not very disabled. This is very hard to keep without balance.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Terry Thompson, and my main issue about all of this, I'm sure you're all very intelligent persons and women, but you know, this is our country. As a citizen of this country, counting all the people, I have no problem with. I don't care if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. It doesn't make any difference to me. Where my difference comes is if you're a citizen of this country, a legal citizen of this country, you have a right to vote. If you're an illegal person in this country, you have no rights at all to this country. None. And we shouldn't be paying them and giving them. I'm a veteran. And as far as I'm concerned, they treat all of the illegals far more than I've been treated in the last 50 years of my life. Somewhere down the line, you people are the ones that have the right, the ability, the authority to take and make this right for the American citizens. We can't be overrun. We're being overrun right now. And everybody wants to count everybody so that they can get their money, their funding and stuff. That's not right. And I oppose everything that has to do with this because of that. I want my voice heard. Maybe it doesn't go any further than this room. But something's got to be done because we are being invaded. And no one's doing anything about it except inviting them. Look at the disease that's coming through. Look at all the problems with gangs. People are getting murdered in San Francisco just the other day. You know, it's got to stop somewhere. And it's your ability as the people that you are that you can do this. So stop giving in to all these people that have no right to be here. They take our welfare systems and abuse it to no end. They take our medical and abuse it to no end. I have a hard time for the last 50 years to get medical. I'm a veteran. I served this country. And I want you people, as a collective group of people, to do something about it. Truly do something that protects me as a citizen and everyone else that in here that is a citizen. And stop giving our country away. It's time we need to take it back. I thank you very much for your time. And I'm getting a little emotional, so I should step down. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Would anybody else like to care or speak on the matter? Any discussion up here?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would actually like to have that item, was it 9?
Yes.
Pulled from the consent and let's take separate action on that in lieu of tonight's comments.
Pulled from consent?
Yeah, pulled from consent at this point.
All right. Is it just a matter of me saying so, or we have to go through the protocol? Easy enough? Something's easy for once? All right, let's do that. Open for discussion.
Do you want to handle it now or handle the rest of the consent agenda, Mr.
Do
Mayor?
it right now.
Okay. First of all, sir, thank you for your service. I'm a veteran as well. Okay. This is a highly polarized issue, as a lot of things are in our country. And with that, as you indicated, as all of you indicated, this is going before the Supreme Court within the next short period of time. I think the spirit of this resolution wasn't to cause harm or foul, Mr. Mayor, across the board. It was simply to encourage people to be a part of the census. But in light of it being a polarized issue, I would like to offer up that we hold off on our resolution until such a time in the next few weeks that we have a decision from the Supreme Court, because obviously we have no control over every issue that was brought up tonight. All we have the ability to do is pass a resolution. So I think we should draft a resolution to align with the supreme law of our land, which is the Supreme Court, in just a matter of a month, because the census is still forthcoming.
All right. Do we have any anticipated date for a decision on that? When is the census supposed to begin? Next year? 2020?
2020.
All right. 2020 census. Okay. All right. Thank you for that comment. Anybody else?
Through the mayor,
Yes.
I do agree with Councilman Shaw. He stated a point that I was going to make. I would like to go on record, though, since one in the audience asked. I'm not opposed to the census. I do think every legal citizen should be counted, and I do think there's an opportunity to count all the citizens, but the count that determines funding and apportionment and all those things should be reserved for those folks who are here legally. But in the spirit of what Councilman Shaw, you said it very well, Councilman. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
I'm just going to ride the wave, Mayor.
Ma'am?
I like your thought, Councilman Shaw. I like your thought, the idea of the Supreme Court. Having been an immigrant into this country, had the luxury of being legally crossing the border. Not all of us have that opportunity. And having participated in the census over the years, I have. My family has. Lots of people's families have. I think that it's unfortunate when it becomes polarized and political, and it's not necessary. This is something that it's order for us to be able to understand who is living in our communities. And there are people that are undercounted. And I agree with that because I've seen it. I have my master's in social work from a university that is having a lot of problems lately. But in that, I've done a lot of research about census data. And so I would offer to you that in order to make statements, I like to keep it to what I know are the facts. So I utilize the U.S. Census. I use the United States of America's census, because if I don't trust our federal government, then what am I doing here as an elected official? I trust what they're doing, and I trust the count. But I also think that in this write-up that Dale put together, I think he kept it very general to what the standard is expected of a state, of counties. And so I think in his words here that he listed are not offensive to the other populations. I think it's talking about we support the count. Let's be counted as Californians. And so I would encourage that the language stay in a neutrality, in a compassionate, but understand that we all here, and I'm here to serve, and I will do it ethically and to the rule of the law, but sometimes the language can be harsh.
All right, thank you.
Through the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just for the information of the City Council, the Supreme Court will be hearing oral arguments on this in April. They should have a decision before the end of June. The U.S. government will start printing its census papers immediately thereafter at the end of June.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That helps quite a bit. Basically, it's the proclamation stating that we support participation in the census, which of course we do. But I do have strong agreement with some things that have been said tonight, in that we're counting folks that are not citizens of this country. They're here by violation of the law. That's unacceptable. They should not receive benefits, period. However, I also think that it's important that we count everybody that's here, because the reality is they are here at the same time. So we have this dilemma, right? Excuse me. I also can't help thinking about the kids that were brought here against their will or with their parents, and that they need services. They just simply do. So I think we do need to support it, but I do think I have an extreme comfort level with what has been said here. I agree with your philosophies, but we do need to count them. But I also think that we need to be in line with the law of the land, which is our Supreme Court. I have zero problem with waiting until that decision is rendered, and then we can act as a council at that time. So that would be my opinion. That being said, unless there's further discussion, I'll take action.
Okay, through the mayor.
Sir?
I'd like to make a motion to put this on the calendar for the second council meeting in June concerning the recognizing the importance of the 2020 census to be counted in California.
Okay.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your input today. All right, so now we are going to vote on 8 and 11 as a matter of consent before we go to number 10.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for pass the consent calendar for item number 8 and item number 11.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very well, that's passed. Now we'll go to number 10, Mr. Moody.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Okay, so the item before you is in regards to contract contingency analysis. So a couple months back, council requested staff look into our policy, just kind of as a rule of thumb. We had a standard policy where we came back with contract improvement projects where we requested 10% budget allowance with a contract improvement. So with that, we went back and we basically went through and kind of did analysis where we looked at the city's purchasing policy. We looked at the contract, public contract code. We looked at neighboring cities to see what their standards were. And then we also went back 10 years to look at all of our public contract projects that we've come to council and look at those contingencies amount. And the contracts that we surveyed that used the 10% standard, we had an average of about 4%, 4.1%. In that analysis, we had hundreds of projects. We didn't particularly. There were some projects that we had a specific request for a 20% contingency. There were some one-offs where maybe we had a really good bid and we had to use the money by a certain time frame. So when we came to council, we asked for a 20% contingency, or we knew it was a facility improvement project where we were going to get into a remodel situation where there was a different request. And so this is just a real typical. With a standard 10% request, we used about 4% on average based on the percentage. And those projects range from anywhere from $8,000 to $11 million. And so typical projects, roads, utilities, city facilities, public improvement type projects. So we looked at Lincoln, Woodland, Roseville, West Sacramento, just some quick internet searches through their staff reports, what we could find readily available. Not a real super detailed analysis, but we pulled up some past projects on each of those sites and looked, and the common theme was that this 10%, it's not really, it wasn't in the public contract code, it's not in a purchasing policy, it's really kind of a rule of thumb for the budget for the 10%. And so when we're looking at that, you know, there is the potential, and the staff hears council's request that we don't want to set an expectation that with an approval of 10% that we're automatically spending that 10%. But we also recognize that there's some variances. The 4% was the average, so sometimes we're spending 1%, sometimes we're spending 7%, and so with that, staff feels maybe instead of just setting a generic 5% rule of thumb or a 10%, that the best way to really handle that is with each particular project, we come analyze the history of those type of projects, like the striping project we brought last council meeting, that we could kind of see, hey, what do we think, and then we could set a standard based on what we think. So we could tighten up that expectation a little bit, and you know, and then a little bit on the variables, which most of you know is we recognize with the different projects when we get into a full-blown reconstruct in the middle of an existing street with existing utilities, that has a higher tendency for a higher percentage versus a striping project where we could really nail down some of the limit lines and the length of the striping and different variables. So with that, I recommend that you basically just direct staff to continue analyzing each project, and we'll come with a specific contingency request versus a 10% standard. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Sounds great. All right. Mr. Short.
I'm Mike Short. I live at 2347 Oregon Way at Shanghai Bend. After this rousing speech by my fellow Vietnam vet, he did a far better job of talking than I could do about anything, so I withdraw my request to speak on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, number 12 has been pulled, so we'll move on to number 13.
Mr.
Unless
Mayor,
anybody else would care to speak on.
We gotta do number 10, sir.
We didn't do number 10.
We have to do it.
Oh,
was
have
the
to
city
finish it
council
out.
planning on taking any formal action on number 10?
yeah, we have a vote on number 10. I apologize.
I'd like
Any
to,
action on number 10?
like to make a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Ben, I just want to say thank you for doing the research on this, because you said council. I was the council that brought up and said 10% was way too broad. I do support the position being very specific, because obviously if we have a $7,000 project, the 10% contingent isn't much, it's $700.
Yeah.
But if we've got an $11 million project, 1% is an awful lot. So as long as you're bringing them forward with justification and something reasonable, the whole idea was to basically tighten the ship a little bit. And I do appreciate your work, and it's nice to know that we've only been out of variance on average about 4%, which is a lot more in line with the general public versus government. So I just want to say thank you, and I support the recommendation. Do we need to take action, Mr. Mayor, to?
Yes.
Then I would move, there we go, I was looking for it right there. Yeah, 10. I would move that we direct staff to provide specific contingency requests for each city improvement project.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.